have some of the people on your party saying you're not part of government, that those are just people who are nominated, but they happen to be from your party. So are you guys part of government? And if not, are those people who are in government from your party going to leave that party and join government completely and be part of government? So that you know a clarity on where ODM stands in terms of serving the people, or is it in terms of part of the government? And then another thing is that now that you're part of if you are part of the government and now you're part of the government, what are you going to ensure that you are supporting during the demonstration? And now we can see some members of your party like Mbadi supporting parts of the finance bill that were actually the contentious part that people didn't want. And is that the stand of your party? And in this time, tukubali tumechezwa ama tukubali kuna vitu enda kufanyika? Because at the end of the day, a lot was brought out. But kenye ilifanyika ni hiyo punde ilienda ikaoshwa ikarudi. And everything just seems to be the same. The only difference is the people who lost their lives and the people who were hurt and maimed.
There is no day, we as ODM, and I want to speak authoritatively as SG, we have not told the young people to stop going to the streets. We cannot object. Even today, if they decided that they were going to kick out Ruto plus Mbadi and plus who else, Oparanya, let them do it. Nobody has said that you are now a stop from doing those protests, because it was led by them. There is an action by the political class should not affect you, because they were doing it without us anyway.
Yes.
Now, we come to this conversation about whether ODM has joined government or not. I will give you the example of what happened in South Africa. After the elections in SA, when the ANC realized they didn't have a majority, they sat down on a table like this with the DA and they hammered out a deal during which you have a conversation about we have different perspectives about life and the priorities for the people. Which ones are you willing to give up and which ones am I going to give up? So that we come up with a fresh document, a fresh manifesto. We shred the UDA manifesto, shred the Azimio manifesto, come up with a manifesto that will address the issues of the young people. That process has never happened. If there was a deal between UDA and the ODM, I would know, because as a Secretary General, I am the one to sign that deal.
First of all, I want to say, I don't know if everybody has ever told you thank you, but I want to say thank you for that day during Occupy Parliament when you went and stood in front of those two policemen who were shooting and actually managed to stop them from shooting into crowds. Thanks for that. That you risk your own life putting yourself in front of that gun that was aimed, and that saved several lives that day. So I want to say that I'll say thank you for you. I'll give you flowers for that. Now, Mike, I know swali yangu, my question is more on in terms of as where Val is coming from, where everybody's else, and I'm sure 99% of the listeners here actually would like to speak more about what happened after the demonstration. Like we were told, you guys were there with us for the first days, and then all of a sudden we were told the party leader Baba akaambiwa kaa home, akasema nakaa home. Then kidogo tuko nakaanza kujitokeza, one day anasema ameitwa dialogue, mara anasema endi dialogue. Like he said like 3 times he's not going to dialogue with the government, then the dialogue with the government. Then the next thing we're hearing is a formation of a broad-based government, and your party gets a few people elected. So that means, so one of the things, that clarity is that we have some of the people on your party saying you're not part of government, that those are just people who are nominated, but they happen to be from your party. So are you guys part of government? And if not, are those people who are in government from your party going to leave that party and join government completely and be part of government? So that you know a clarity on where ODM stands in terms of serving the people, or is it in terms of part of the government? And then another thing is that now that you're part of if you are part of the government and now you're part of the government, what are you going to ensure that you are supporting during the demonstration? And now we can see some members of your party like Mbadi supporting parts of the finance bill that were actually the contentious part that people didn't want. And is that the stand of your party? And in this time, tukubali tumechezwa ama tukubali kuna vitu enda kufanyika? Because at the end of the day, a lot was brought out. But kenye ilifanyika ni hiyo punde ilienda ikaoshwa ikarudi. And everything just seems to be the same. The only difference is the people who lost their lives and the people who were hurt and maimed. Thank you.
Okay, asante sana. Mika, now callers, stay tuned.
Yes, you're next.
What are the last 4 numbers of the next call?
3178 and 2059.
So 3178 and 2059 in that order. We're going to come to you. But we're going to give an opportunity to Senator to first of all answer those questions that came in thick and fast from Mika and from the people who are commenting on both Facebook and YouTube. Senator.
Yeah, let me start with Mika. Thank you for your kind words. Yes, there were many people who expressed gratitude and support for what I tried to do on the 25th of June, which was one of the darkest days in the history of Parliament and in the history of the country. It was very heartbreaking to see, police firing live rounds into a group of young people who were trying to access Parliament. And my going there was to try and have a conversation with him and tell them that, in fact, Parliament buildings is just that. They are just buildings. Even if they are burnt down or brought down, we can always rebuild them. But you cannot rebuild a life once a life has been lost. And sadly, I couldn't do enough because, unfortunately, almost 8 people were shot outside Parliament.
Okay.
And we continue to commiserate with their families of the ones who lost their lives. And I wish that I could have done more so that nobody died that day. I was willing to go and speak to the young people there to just go. Or, nobody needed to die there. And my position continues to be, Ali, that nobody needs to die at a protest. Nobody needs to die at a protest. And you will see that ever since that day, we have pushed very hard the speakers of the 2 houses of Parliament to now provide a square for protests inside Bunge. Because as it is right now, people protest on Parliament Road out there, and then members of Parliament walk out to the road there and then receive petitions. Because Parliament is supposed to be accessible to the people, we need to find a way to make sure that people can peacefully protest at Parliament and nobody needs to die. I at least have a commitment from the Speaker of the Senate, Kingi, that the institution of Parliament is looking to set aside a space where people can come and protest daily. When I was at the DNC, when you go into the convention center itself, there were people there protesting all sorts of causes. There were people protesting the war in Gaza, the pro-Palestinian protesters, the people protesting against abortion and some of the things that the Democratic Party stands for. But they are peaceful and they are let alone. Nobody bothers with them. They do their own protest and after that they go. We want to have a situation in our country where people can protest and express frustration, present petitions without anybody having to die. And I'm happy that at least in Parliament they are considering that. Now, ODM is not in government. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say this, but I understand the frustration that has been expressed by Mika and even with other people. People are disappointed. They're saying we took advantage of the young people and the young protesters. But Ali, context and history is important. Let me tell you that we in 2023, and you saw all of those things, in 2023 we led protests in Nairobi against the very same government and basically having the same issues. Over 100 people died, Ali. Over 100 people died during the protests that were being led by ODM and the opposition. No life is greater than the other, and we don't mean to demean the achievements of the young people. But it is not just these 60 that have died. And every time that we speak, we say that justice is to be found for every single person who has died in protest since 2022, the election. So the point that I want to make is this. If we lost 100 people, over 100 people in our protest, Ali, and we didn't join government, when the opportunity was there for people to have a conversation, we never brought ourselves to the table or our issues to the table. It is out of the NADCO conversations that came out of the protests we led that we have seen some advancement on some of the issues that Kenyans were raising, including, number one, Ali, we have now concluded a new law on IEBC. It came from a discussion between government and opposition, and it was a structured discussion. If you remember, I was part of the initial team that was representing Azimio. I pulled out when I realized Kina Khalwale were dragging their feet. And when the second team was put in place that was led by Kalonzo, they achieved some things. We have made some milestones out of conversations with government, the NADCO conversations, including amendments to the elections laws that will now make it mandatory that if you are IEBC and you procure technology for elections, you must buy that technology so that we will never be told that we can't audit our servers because of IP laws. That is contained in an amendment that is before Parliament now. It came from that discussion. Now, let me ask you, when did we start being greedy?
But
During the 2023 negotiations, why didn't we present names to cabinet?
Let me pause you. Let me pause you there for a moment.
Yes.
Into why, and now let me not even now speak as the host of the OneMicShow. Because on this show we're usually open about like our politics and our political choices.
Yes.
I'll tell you, me personally, I voted for Baba.
Yeah.
Since I was able to, since 2007.
Yeah.
Bakaleo, I voted for Baba in all the elections.
Yeah.
So I'm in multiple groups, ODM groups, Azimio groups, with people back home, with people over here.
Yes.
So I just want to explain to you, and you've already talked to a lot of people, but I just want to explain to you where people are coming from. And I understand the semantics of it wasn't ODM, it was these 4 5
I have not
individuals.
even come to that. You should have waited for me to explain, and then you'll give me your perspective. But I was just giving you background and historical context that in fact it is an unfair accusation, although I understand where people are coming from. Ali, I will ask you a question.
Yes.
Between the period where after the last protest, say June 25th, and I'm telling you, all of us were supporting these young people.
Yeah.
We wanted them to succeed without anyone having to die, because that is what the Constitution says. On the 25th of June, I thought that they had come the closest, and I wish they never broke their momentum. I wish they had gone on. During that entire period, we were being told as politicians to stay away. We were doing our very little things here and there, undercovers. We were helping people when they go to hospital. We were getting people bailed out of police stations with the Law Society of Kenya. You can check with the president of the LSK how many people are bailed out of the police custody without speaking, without saying that we're actually doing it. Because a national movement such as the one that the young people began has to bring all of us together. The outcome of that movement affects all of us. So we are all invested, even though they were saying they don't want anything to do with us. Now, between the time the young people took over parliament and the time that Ruto dissolved his cabinet and named a fresh cabinet, how long was it?
I think that was it was like was it a 2-week period? It was a very short.
It was longer than 2 weeks.
It was 3 weeks.
It was longer than 2 weeks, and that's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
That there is no day, we as ODM,
Yeah.
and I want to speak authoritatively as SG, we have not told the young people to stop going to the streets. We cannot object, even today, if they decided that they were going to kick out Ruto plus Mbadi and plus who else, Oparanya. Let them do it. Nobody has said that you are now a stop from doing those protests, because it was led by them. There is an action by the political class should not affect you, because they were doing it without us anyway.
Yes.
Now, we come to this conversation about whether ODM has joined government or not. I will give you the example of what happened in South Africa. After the elections in SA, when the ANC realized they didn't have a majority, they sat down on a table like this with the DA and they hammered out a deal during which you have a conversation about we have different perspectives about life and the priorities for the people. Which ones are you willing to give up and which ones am I going to give up, so that we come up with a fresh document, a fresh manifesto. We shred the UDA manifesto, shred the Azimio manifesto, come up with a manifesto that will address the issues of the young people. That process has never happened. If there was a deal between UDA and the ODM, I would know, because as a Secretary General, I am the one to sign that deal. There is no such deal. What happens is Ruto has access to all these political leaders. He has access to all of them. He can call them and ask them, why would you be willing to consider? Now, his motivations are for you to ask him. He can explain why he was motivated to pick Mbadi. Because as I said, Mbadi knows nothing about bottom-up. I know him. He has been my chairman all this time. So these people, it is incumbent upon them. When they are called as individuals and asked to join cabinet, it is their decision. I don't share in that decision. Even now when people ask me, he has asked me about, say, governmental policy right now. I cannot speak for government. I'm not government. If you want to, government has its own spokesperson. They are there, Kina Mwaura are there, and the others, Kina Hussein Mohammed. They can come here and explain government policy. me as a legislator and knowing full well that ODM is not part of this government, you will see that we will continue to hold these people to account. And in fact, the members of ODM expect that we will do that. We will continue to do our jobs as an opposition political party. So I want to say categorically here, and this is the position we have stated. Number one, these individuals are available for the president to tap them. Anyone in Kenya can be tapped by the president. That does not bind the political party called ODM. That is why they resigned from their positions as officials of ODM, you know. So these accusations, people are throwing us mad at us because we are a low-hanging fruit. Wanasema also sisi huwa tumekuwa tumejiekelea juu sana in terms of ideals. And the expectation, of course, is when we appear to sleep or when we give explanations that are not satisfactory, of course we will be attacked. I totally get that. But in the fullness of time, the truth will emerge. And you will continue to see us doing our job as an opposition party. So maybe you can.
So the
Senator,
issue here.
Senator, I have one interjection in something that you said.
Okay, go ahead, Mika.
So, I'm glad that you are able to say, as a party, as the SG, you don't know anything about what's happening, and that ODM didn't get into this. But then, when you say that just a political action should not interfere with how the people are doing, let's be honest here. Baba was caught on camera saying several times, "Don't go to the streets."
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Let me explain.
Hold up.
Let me explain the question of the national conversation. You know, because that one is what you are referring to, saying that it was time to dialogue. I myself read multiple statements calling for a national conversation. There is a difference between a national conversation and a dialogue between two political parties. The national conversation, just let me explain. You know, at some point, Ali, you must allow me to explain. If you have a better explanation, then come and sit in my seat. But I am being honest with you. I'm telling you, the national conversation that we had proposed, and by the way, even when these young people were resisting that national conversation, do you know it is happening? See, I saw them the other day with the president in a town hall. That is exactly what we had proposed for them. We said, let us get the leadership of the country in one room. Right? And let these young people vent and tell them off and tell them what they want to see with their country, what they want us to do with the country. But we could not continue in that situation where Ruto is not going and the young people are not relenting. Nairobi is a ghost town every single day. I represent people both at the lower spectrum of life and at the high spectrum. I represent individuals. I represent businesses. The CBD being closed for weeks on end is not something that any leader wants to see. How do you resolve the impasse? We said, can these young people, if you are going to do it, please do it. We support you. But if it is not going to happen, what is the alternative? We have to sit down and talk. And we were not talking about people getting positions in government. I can tell you, Ali, that nothing has changed. The anger that the young people had is still there because we have not seen any commitment from Ruto to make any changes. Appointing Mbadi, it does not address the issues that the youth have raised. And for as long as those issues are not addressed, this issue is not going to go away. But you have to have a conversation. You have to have a conversation as a country.
Okay, let Mika make his last point, and then we're going to go to the other questions. And Watwala Simu, we are going to come to you. Please be patient with us. Mika.
Okay. So, and Senator, I'm glad you said something that the anger is not there. And you said something that, something here. So let me tell you something. Like Ali, I'm not going to speak as a presenter of the OneMicShow. I'm going to present as Mika, somebody who has voted for Baba since I got my first voter's card in the year 2000, and I voted for Baba the first time in 2002. And I voted
2007.
No.
Or
I voted for Baba because I voted in Langata.
Okay. There you go. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so. I'm saying this is somebody that I've given my vote for every election. Even in 1997, I was living in Dubai, flew to Kenya and voted for him. The only election I didn't vote for was 2013 when I was here in the States. Okay, so apart from that, this is somebody who's a Baba follower. This is somebody who has friends in both spectrums of my generation, which is the millennials. I have a Gen Z child and I have Gen Z family and Gen Z friends. As somebody who has connections between Nairobi and Kenya and Busia, and this is somebody who is involved in every day-to-day life. And I will tell you just conversation-wise, wacha tutoe siasa sasa. News among ground, kitu yenye iko kwa ground, and this is what people saw that demoralized them from going to the demonstration, because at one point demonstration walikuwa wamesema ni ya mababi pekee, right? Ni mapanga. Ni watu wa KFC na iPhones. People came out from and then guess what? The young people all have the same issues. They came out from all sides of the country. Every area, it no longer became about KFC and iPhones. It became about the young people and what they want to be done better in the country. The factors that demoralized them, when they told Baba stay out of this, and Baba stayed out of it, and they told politicians to stay out of it, and then politicians were coming in, and the reason why people were and the reason why people say they came in and they say, we know this is going to cause a vacuum. We are hoping that nobody takes advantage of this, and they felt that ODM came and took advantage, because the demoralization started, number one, when abductions became free and willy, and they were being abducted every now and everybody, that became a scare tactic. Number two, when the government was formed, the broad-based government that he's talking about was formed. And number three, when politicians from your side of the aisle told people to stay. I even have tweets from Honorable Kaluma telling people, Baba amesema tunaenda huku, I do not want any more demonstration, I don't want any maandamano. So you cannot say that he did not say that, while there are clips on the internet, not on the national conversation.
Boss.
National conversation was you.
Mika.
You know,
Mika.
there's a difference between Baba
Yes.
and there's a difference between you.
Let's
And
be honest here.
Baba himself.
Let's be honest, Mika. Mika, I will
honest.
accept, just a minute. I will accept your position, whether you don't want to support us anymore, whether you've given up on Baba, whether you've given up on Sifuna, but I want it to be informed.
No,
we said let us be informed.
no.
Number one, Mika, you are jumping over a few facts. Number one, let me give you those facts. On the day when these young people said they were going to State House, who are the people who were saying don't go to State House? Was it Raila?
No,
It was the leader.
it was
just a minute. It was the young people themselves and the people who are the loudest voices in this particular movement. Those accounts are there saying, this one is a different issue altogether. This is not like Parliament. Sijui State House is a protected area. That is what was taking the fire from the movement. Number two,
I agree that.
after the rejection of the finance bill, what were the young people themselves saying? You did not hear Sifuna saying now you cannot go on with the movement. Many of the young people themselves, and we follow these conversations, were saying the reason we were in the streets is the finance bill. Now that the president has abandoned it, we no longer have the reason to go to the streets. The movement turned on itself. I was following these conversations.
But
Number
remember,
three,
Senator,
by the time Ruto is saying he's disbanding his government, you can see other people also saying now, we have achieved what it is that we wanted, we need to stop. There were different voices. They were no longer speaking in the same voice that we saw prior to this. So for you to come and tell us that it is Raila who told people not to go to State House, it is there. It is there online. Even today I can open those accounts. So please,
Senator, when you
wacha tukosane kwa ukweli, lakini si ati tukosane na uongo. Tuambiane ukweli.
Haya, Mika, 1 minute. Kuna watu kwa simu wanataka ongea. 1 minute, Mika.
I'm finishing up real quick. So, Senator, you've told me to be factual. Also, be factual. I have not said that I said Raila went. Okay, also, you be factual. Don't say I've mentioned Raila told people not to go to State House.
The clips you are talking about, what clips were you saying?
No. I said when he said it's time for conversation. He said it's time for conversation. He said it. And before the show is over, I'm going to pull clips for you. And I will show you.
And you tell me, you put those two things together. Tell me Raila saying it's time for conversation and young people themselves saying don't go to State House. What is it that punctured the movement?
No, I did not say don't go to State House. Again, Senator, be factual with what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't go to State House.
Okay.
I said it's time to State out, get out of the street and continue demonstrating. And then to add to your fact, you've said the truth. There were a lot of demoralizing things that happened, but the final nail on the coffin on this protest that came in when they felt there was a betrayal from the opposition.
Somebody who, how can you be betrayed by somebody who was not part of you?
All
that
right.
is a question you need to answer.
Sawa. Mika, Senator, we're gonna get back to that. Want to remind the listeners that you're tuned in to the One Mic Show. Number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. things heating up in the studio. And I like this because I think it's important, for Senator also to feel the temperatures that are also there in the diaspora. And the one other thing that I will also say is that there's the maybe the factual side of things, but then there's also the perspective or how people feel,
perception,
or how people think, which sometimes trumps like everything else. But anyway, still Senator will still answer a couple of questions that you're gonna be asking
now, because I had written down 10 questions that you had read from Facebook. I want to tie this
Facebook,
yes.
Okay.
I want to tie this to something that I think it was
callers, we're gonna get to you.
Is it
Be patient.
Wanderi or somebody who said
Wanderi, yeah.
Yes, that leaders lie too much. Now, let me tell you this, and I will admit here that there is a serious deficit of trust between political class in Kenya and the electorate, which is why when we explain things, people don't want to believe us. And we have caused this ourselves because of the conduct of politicians over the years and people saying things that they don't believe in or so on and so forth. I understand that. And there is a difference between you perceiving something and it being a fact. The truth does not change depending on whether you believe it or not. The truth remains the truth. We can disagree. You say you don't believe me, but it is the truth. I will not force my truth on you, and you cannot force your perception on me. One of the things I've decided to do, Ali, I will tell my own story. We will tell our own story.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you believe us or not, because at the end of the day, in fullness of time, the truth has a way of coming out. I have been crucified for things that are actually not true, and I've given you examples. I've given you the Ndengu bill. And it was in the national newspaper, Daily Nation. Waliweka wakasema, Senate imepitisha sheria ya kusema ukipanda ndengu utafainiwa. It was not true. Even after an apology was rendered by that newspaper, there are still people who talk about ndengu.
Yeah.
Number two, I gave you the example of people waking up one day and saying, Senate has passed a bill that will make motor vehicles, polling stations. Mpaka hata wewe mwenyewe unaanza kudoubt, because I'm the one who passes those laws and I read every single clause of those laws. I go to my office and open that bill. There simply isn't such a provision. You come to the conflict of interest bill, they have splashed things there saying, oh, we are going to do business. You show them the law. They don't want to read, because in Kenya, when people are wrong, they would never admit. They will never admit. They will never admit that they were wrong. But can we just agree on one thing? We don't have to believe each other. The truth is not going to change. If I can see an iPad in front of you and you're seeing a basin, that is something we cannot resolve, because the distance between your perception and mine is too wide. But if I'm seeing an iPad and you're seeing a phone, then maybe we can have a conversation.
Yeah, but Senator,
the truth will remain the truth.
Yeah, I'll tell you that.
I'll
tell you that. Yeah. But Senator, I'll tell you one thing. Like myself, Mika, and a lot of people who've supported Baba before. Regardless of whether it was individuals who joined the government or whether it was the party. I mean, of course, you've told us that it was individuals and it wasn't necessarily the party. But I'm telling you, the perception that's on this other side, and that's where sometimes perception may become more important. In as far, especially if you have a political party or an institution that you're trying to put together, I can tell you the ground beneath is boiling, and those 4 or 5 individuals who chose to join government, who are part of the face of the political party, it's being perceived one way.
I understand.
At the bottom,
I understand
and
that.
it's gonna affect.
I understand that.
The support of the party.
I understand that perception.
Yeah.
Even when I explain to people that there are many within the party who did not support that move, nobody believes it. When I tell people that personally I did not support any of our members joining government, but you need to look at the profile of those people. You guys behave like you don't have eyes. Why didn't you see any young dynamic leaders from ODM joining government? What is the one thing those 4 people share in common? Look at the people themselves, so that when an opportunity like that is presented to them, the likelihood of them saying yes, because of the profile, the life that they have lived, the service that they have already given, the number of years they have been in this business, they would take the opportunity. But for you to come and ascribe that to an entire political outfit so that you discredit us. And number 2, I have been SG of ODM. This is my 7th year. In November, I'm going to be the longest serving SG of ODM. ODM is a party that is not judged by parameters that any other party is judged by. I am telling you this. We have been victims of this fake outrage before. We have been victims of very negative branding. You remember when people say, oh, this ODM is a violent party. But when other people are doing it, it is very stylish.
No, and
we have
that's
had
fair.
people.
That's a
we
fair,
have had people.
Men in
even-
black.
Just a minute. We have had people. We have had people who confessed, including the former governor of Nairobi, confessed of banning vehicles on Ngong Road and then blaming it ODM,
On
so that
ODM, yeah.
they can continue that narrative that ODM is a violent party. We understand that. This is the environment that we play in. But believe you me, Ali, the truth, if the sun rises from the east, it doesn't matter which side of the globe you are in. It will come from the east, and it will remain so.
Okay, we've been keeping the callers on hold for a while. The number is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We still have 2 callers on queue.
Yes, now there are 3.
Okay, now the 3 callers
Yes.
on queue. So just read the last 4 digits so that they know what order they come in.
3178. They already the order. It's like it's
Okay,
listed.
so
I mean,
3178, which is the other one?
3178, 2059, and lastly 7796.
Okay, so just know your position in the queue. We're going to come to you. So let's start with the first one.
Thank you for calling the One Mic Show 3178.
Okay, please tell us your name and where you're calling from, and 1 minute comment or question. Is it 3078
3178.
or 3178? Going once, going twice. We'll come back to them. Go to the next caller.
All right, 2059. Thank you for calling the One Mic Show.
Your name and where you're calling from. 1 minute question or comment.
Julius Nairi from Canada via Jamaica, or vice versa.
Okay. For Jamaica, and welcome to the One Mic Show. I know you had a very burning question for the senator. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Well, I feel almost bad because I hear what's being discussed. I feel my case is like not important.
No. Go
at
ahead.
this moment.
No,
But I'll ask.
Go ahead. You took the time to give us a call, so let us know. Every question is important.
So, Senator, I am a Jamaican citizen, a descendant of an enslaved African that was transplanted many years ago to the Caribbean. There's a group of us, several hundred actually, wanting to relocate to East Africa. I've been to Kenya personally 3 times. I own businesses in Kenya. I own property in Kenya. My issue is I can't come and operate in any of my businesses because the government requires 1 million Kenyan shillings, which is about 137,000 Canadian dollars. Now, as a person of color, a black person, we are somewhat financially disenfranchised all over the world. I think there should be some special dispensation for any descendant in Africa of an African who's trying to relocate to the continent. And we're looking for someone within the Kenyan government to be our champion for that. I'm not saying we're coming broke, because you can't come to Africa broke, and we're not coming to look jobs. We're coming to run businesses. But I think the $1 million price tag, 1 million shilling price tag is a bit excessive. And I'll give you an example. Canada, where I'm right now, has a program called the Owner-Operator Work Permit Visa. All you need to do to apply to that one is have a solid business plan and the financial backing to carry it out. In the States, I believe, you can come with $50,000 US and be able to operate, get a work permit for the States. So, it's not just Kenya that have these exorbitant prices. Kenya is actually the cheapest at 100,000. Zimbabwe is 125. South Africa is 500,000. And I feel like these things were put in place to disenfranchise descendants of enslaved Africans to move back to the continent. So we're looking for a champion within the Kenyan government to be able to argue for some special dispensation for us. So those of us who wish to come back and operate businesses can do so, because it will create jobs in Kenya, and it will be a win-win for us who wanting to come back to Africa, and a win-win for Africans on the continent. Thank you.
All right, thank you so
Thank
much,
you, Afro-Jamaican.
Next caller, you're going to try to go back to the first one?
It's 7796. 7796. Thank you for calling the One Mic Show. Name and where you're calling from.
Thank you so much. So this is Kevo. I'm calling from Virginia. And I just want to support my brother on the Zoom call that the reason why we feel like we were betrayed by Raila, or rather the ODM party, because we refuse to believe in coincidences in politics. We refuse to believe that on a day when demonstrations were going on, and then it happens to be the time when Baba comes out and happens to go and he's seen it Ruto, and then at the end of the day, when the cabinet was was broken and they made a whole other new cabinet, and then you see people from the ODM team forming part of the cabinet. So that is what makes us feel like a revolution of the people was hijacked by the political class. And also just to remind that I don't think even if we have the ODM in cabinet, we want to believe that Ruto as a man is the guy who seems to make too many mistakes, and I don't even think ODM will save him by coming in at this time. And that we will within no time. Ruto, since this was a revolution of the people, however the political class came in, then with any slight mistake that will come in, then the people will go back to the streets and we will demonstrate again. And as the people have said, we will not allow this government to be led, but we will be co-pilots of this government in everything that they do. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Do you have any other
one
call
more
on queue?
We have
Okay.
one more caller.
Okay.
Thank you for calling the One Mic Show. 6499. Name and where you're calling from.
Hi, my name is Nancy Mirazzi. I'm calling from Des Moines, Iowa. And my thing is this, Mr. Sifuna, just so you know, we were such great supporters and champion of your work. We're a little disappointed just because of the political class taking over. And I feel like people don't have a voice. So how do you guys run a government if there's no good opposition? And who is speaking on behalf of the people? Because what's happening is appalling, and we should all be very sad and upset that you guys have joined the other party. Anyway, thank you though. Thank you for braving this, and thank you for being here, and actually thank you for speaking up.
All right, Nancy. Nancy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy.
So a question there from Nancy. And before you start answering the questions, let me try to pick up a couple of other questions that came in through the comments that were coming in thick and fast. And I'm gonna.
You want me to read the YouTube ones?
Yeah, go ahead and start reading the YouTube ones, and then the questions that have been repeated, we can skip them. That have already been answered, we can skip them for the sake of time.
I'm just gonna say here. So first and foremost, let me recognize Steve Okoth and Ngeno Kelvin. Karibuni sana. Pius Tora here as Val, and I think maybe this one might have been asked. All I'm hearing is the senator becoming defensive. Article 73, 2A and Article 75 are clear on gross misconduct. What has he as the opposition done to make sure this clause is implemented? Iran Dunda says if it's evidence there are serious challenges ahead for ODM as a national party. If Baba, as we see, move on to win AU championship, will he or the party consider endorsing or supporting Ruto or UDA? And Lorenzo Vere is asking for the number 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. That number has been posted twice by Omosh. He said that. And Karibu Sana and Seleme Herelim. Ooh, my apologies if I butcher your name. Over.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there's something somebody has said here that I want to reiterate. One of the callers said that this was a revolution of the people, and I agree 100%. And that at any one point, the people can go back to the streets, and I agree with that. And this is the point that I was making, that nothing is dependent upon the action of politicians. If the youth have shown us anything, is that they are able to mobilize outside the political forces. They're able to do their thing in the absence of any political leadership. And this is the point that I've been making to those people who are saying that they have that the ODM has deflated the youth movement. Number two, Nancy, I have said here, I understand why people are disappointed, but we need to have a conversation about the fairness of some of the accusations and where the blame lies. But I also understand. No, I'm not supposed to appear defensive, but I'm here to defend myself because accusations have been leveled against me of abandoning the people. Accusations have been leveled against my political organization of hijacking a movement of the young people. What I want to say here is that I believe that in the absence of a proper address to the issues that the young people raised and that Kenyans have raised, by the way, those issues were not new. I know them like the back of my hand because I have been fighting and championing these same issues for years. Now, the thing that has happened in Kenya that I am proud of is that there used to be an artificial barrier between Mwananchi and the electorate and the elected leaders. That barrier has been brought down by the Gen Z movement because right now, every member of parliament knows that they can be gotten to. Hiyo kiburi ilikuanga pale nyuma, mtu anaambiwa you can't vote or support something like this, and then because they are sitting in Nairobi somewhere in parliament very secure, iko na polisi, iko na air conditioning mzuri, wanafikiria ati wanaweza fanya kitu kulingana na mapenzi yao na si mapenzi ya wananchi. That has been removed. Number two, there is something that has happened again, that there used to be a time when the constitution under Article 3 places the responsibility of defending our constitution and our democracy on all of us. But for the longest time, Kenyans had outsourced this responsibility to one individual. That if Raila did not speak, then nobody has spoken for the people. Right now, my brother, nobody is waiting for any of us to speak. Kenyans are speaking for themselves. You have seen young people like Morara. They are yes, that's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
If you think that you can compromise one leader or you can give Sifuna something so that he keeps quiet, the Kenyans, people will emerge. You cannot muzzle the voices of all the 55 million Kenyans. And I am happy that we are living in a greater democracy. I am very proud that people are reading bills these days. People are following parliamentary proceedings. People are asking us to explain how we voted on many things. This thing of even here in the US, it is tradition for people to call their members of Congress whenever there is a controversial bill before the floor of the House. It never used to happen in Kenya. These days, after namba zetu zisambazwe, people were being, you now have a direct access to your member of parliament, and you're able to say on this particular issue, as somebody who voted for you, the way that my brother has spoken there as a person who voted in Langata, you can tell your member of parliament that on this one, I want you to stand with me, and this is my position. That never used to happen in Kenya. We are living in a very new paradigm right now, because for the first time, that barrier between Mwananchi and the elected leaders has been removed. And I think it can only mean well for, the democracy that we want to build. Of course, there has been abuse of that access. There are people who, like now this brother of mine from Jamaica, who just wants a review of the immigration laws, the laws on business permits, the laws of naturalization. That is what you do with access to a member of parliament. Or my friend, one of my friends online, who just tagged me on a post on Twitter saying she's a mother living with a child or with special needs, and she wanted me to make an amendment to a law that we were actually considering in the Senate. And she came to my office and we discussed, and then we were able to make an amendment to the law so that they can get tax breaks for people who have children with special needs. That is what you do with access. Not sending me messages like the ones that are coming on this live feed. That is what you do with access to a member of parliament. Not to insult us every day. You are sending me one bob on M-Pesa. For what? I have not asked you for money, So the access, the good things that have happened from the movement are things that we all support. And the country will never be the same again. I want us to continue like this. My one prayer is that the young people learned a lesson on the day of the voting on the finance bill. That it is one thing for you to sing in the streets that tuko wengi, but in parliament hamuko wengi. Unanielewa? Me as SG of ODM, I have my own target. People are saying, oh, the party is finished. It doesn't matter. I am going to work hard to make sure that I restore the party. Last election, we increased our numbers in parliament. My target next election is 150. I should sit down and plan and be able to put in the work to ensure that I grow the organization. Now, these young people, I hope they learned that they need 204 members of parliament. That is the 204 who voted for the bill. I am very proud of the work that I did as SG and of the party position that we stood with the people during the voting on that bill.
Yes.
So they need 204. I really wish that they could channel this energy into political action. Let people run for office. And I am not forcing anyone or inviting anyone to join ODM. It doesn't matter which political organization you are in. at the end of the day, forces for good will find each other. If after the election, ODM has its 150 members of parliament that I'm targeting, and there are 204 new Gen Z party members of parliament, we know that there are forces of good, that if a bill ever comes to the House that is as bad as the finance bill of 2024, we have 359 members of parliament, both from the Gen Z and from ODM, because for me, I still believe that ODM is an organization for good, for the good of the people.